All right, we've got that rear shelf now bolted down in place, the 2 locations at the rear and 4 across the front. And we've got that Velcroed all the way across the front now, tucked down nicely. I think we're looking pretty good as far as wrinkles are concerned. You're going to get a little bit of undulation back here because the backboard is actually not flat. There's actually ribs in it, so the carpet sort of lays over the ribs a little bit. So that's about as good as I can get it. I think it looks pretty good personally. So for obviously a non-molded carpet. So the next thing I'm going to have to do, I thought I might be able to do the B-post next, the B-post trim, which I have sitting over there. But it looks like I need to do these sill carpets first because the B-post trim are going to sit on top of the sill carpets. So we need to figure out what pieces go along here and do those next. So let me go through the carpet box again. I wish these things were labeled. It's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, but we'll figure out what goes here and move on to the next step. Alright, I managed to figure out the sill carpeting, and we've just got it dry fitted here along with the trim strip, and just sitting in here in place. And I'm just about to go ahead and add some sound deadening to this cross member piece. You can see it's a bare piece. Most of the other areas have some form of sound deadening. There's sound deadening in here over to here. There's sound deadening there and up in the footwell. So I thought I'd add a little bit of sound deadening here along the side. So we're going to be using this fat mat and putting some in there. I've just got my roller ready to apply that after I cut a strip out. Then we're going to put this carpeting in. Whether I need to glue it or not, that's another story. It's going to be held here in the back with one of the bolts for the seat belts. And as mentioned, this trim strip here is going to be holding it down with 4 screws. So not sure whether I'll need to glue this or not. I may need to glue it up more towards the A-post, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm still trying to figure out what carpeting goes to cover that A-post section. Again, it is an absolute puzzle. I've actually gone online and checked to see if anybody's installed this kit from World Upholstery, and sounds like there has been issues in the past, and nobody has really concrete answers on where some of these panels are supposed to go. So we'll muddle through it and figure it out, but it's a challenge. Alright guys, we have the fat mat sound deadener applied to both sides, and I've just dry fitted this side back again with the carpet piece and the trim piece. So what we're going to do now is we're going to clean up and polish that trim piece while we have the opportunity. Then we're going to screw this in, which will tighten down obviously that top carpet piece. Then we're going to locate the seat belt mounting hole. We actually left a little hole for it in the sound deadening so we can get that fed through there. We do have to make a hole in the carpeting on this side for that provision, but we'll do that shortly. So let me polish this up and then we'll start working on fastening this down. Alright, the sill carpets are in and fastened down. We've got the seat belts also in there, stretching them out a little bit. So I think the next thing I can probably do are the B-post trim pieces, which will also entail me hooking up the cable pull for the trunk release. So that's number 1. Number 2 is I can figure out where the carpeting goes below the seats, and I'm kind of doing this carpeting by a process of elimination. So I believe these are the 2 pieces for below the seats, as they've got this little stitch, and I think that goes over the channel somehow. And I believe these are for the transmission tunnel, these 2 pieces, and then the 2 pieces below are the driver's side carpet and the passenger side carpet. And then I have all these pieces left over here. One's obviously for the gearbox, the handbrake probably, and then the others I have no idea. I know I'm going to need some for the B-post trim pieces. I'm not sure which ones those are yet. So reading a couple of posts on the online forums, some other guys have run into the issues as well, not knowing where some of these pieces go. And I don't think they ever got an answer to it, so I'm gonna have to figure this out where these 2 go. I'm sure they're A-post somewhere or somehow. We'll figure it out as we go, but I think we've figured out primarily where most of the carpets go. So let's continue on getting these carpets in and doing the B-post trim panels, which I mentioned previously are over there. waiting to go. All right, just doing another dry fit. So we have the center hump piece in place for the handbrake, and I believe that's how it's going to fit. And then the two overlaying pieces that will be under the seat that have a stitched pocket in them for the depression in the floor. So I believe that's how that's going to go. Of course, we need to make cutouts for the seat bolt up locations, but I believe that's how those carpets are going to go, and they'll tuck back a little bit better under this rear shelf. So that's another mystery solved. We're slowly working our way forward. So again, I know the two front carpets, I figured those out, and I believe I figured out the tunnel carpets. So let's keep moving forward, and I think what I'll do now is I will make some cuts, I think, or position the carpets and make some cuts for the bolts for the seats, and maybe we'll make some cuts for the other receivers for the seat belts, and that'll hold that carpet in place a little bit. So I've yet to use any glue on any of these carpets. They've all either had something holding them in place so far so good, but we'll use glue, as I mentioned, where we need it. All right, not exactly sure where I left off on the last video, but now we've made clearance for the seat tracks on the insides, and I've just brought out the handbrake boot cover. That actually needs to be snapped onto here, so we've actually got to put some rivets and snaps on the carpet, so we'll do that in a little bit. But I think what we'll do now is I'm going to not bother punching holes in this piece of carpeting for this seat rail area. We'll do that a little bit later on. I think now we'll actually concentrate on doing the B-post capping. And we'll start with the passenger side, because that's a little bit easier than the driver's side that has that cutout for that trunk pull, as mentioned. All right, the passenger side B-post panel is now installed and looks good. So we'll move on to the driver's side, and I'm anticipating that the driver's side will take significantly longer. All right, so for the trunk release mechanism, we're actually going to try to install this Centerline DH550, which is this nice chrome piece. It's very substantial. Seems like really good quality. So we're going to replace the old plastic pull with a nice chrome one. It's got a set of matching keys for it as well, so you can lock the trunk out if you like. So we'll transfer this little bit from the old mechanism to the new, and we'll see how we make out fitting that. Wish me luck. Alright guys, we've been fighting with the installation of this little trunk pull here, the chrome one that we're replacing the old plastic one with. And of course, replacement is sometimes never easy with aftermarket parts. So a couple of things to note on this replacement. So on the back of the old one, you can see there's a pocket in the top here for the cable to go through to drop down into its slot before it's held by this little set screw here. Of course, in the new one, there is no pocket for the cable to go down into, so I've cut a slot to mimic the stock one so I could drop the cable down and pull it through. That's number one modification we've done. Number two, now we've got it installed and hooked up to the actual nut and bolt arrangement in here that holds the cable end, and you can see it's got a little I don't know what you call the little ferrule on the end. That's the stock ferrule. Now the only problem is, now this, when I go to shut it, this little piece here, the end piece of the ferrule, actually fouls on the metal on the bottom here, so it will not close without significant force. Actually, I don't even think I can close it with force. So that means I'm going to have to grind away probably some of the material on the base there where that little ferrule is hitting, so it can go all the way back in. So we're going to have to remove this again and remove some material there for that to work properly. I'm not sure how this one worked out. It's probably just a deeper area for that to clearance. So anyway, more modifications to be done, so I got to take it apart again and do a little bit of grinding there on the inside for clearance. So I can either try to grind the ferrule down or to grind the actual metal down, and I think it's going to have to be the metal on the actual new pull switch, because it looks like it's a bit of a wedge style, and it's clearing the front here, but as soon as it gets thicker towards the back, it's fouling before it can drop back into its slot. So anyway, I'll have a look once we take this apart again. Believe me, I've got the cable detached in the trunk at the pull there, so I can pull the cable a little bit further forward here, but there's only so much you can pull. And to actually get this bolted up here, holding this up, and I've tried to obviously do this a number of different ways. I've actually tried to detach the spring on the back of the lever here to make it easier. That didn't really work. So it's just trying to get this ferrule and this bolt and this hole aligned to screw this in very tight quarters with very tight room to maneuver. So it's been a little bit of a challenge. I figured it would be. Alright, I don't know whether you're going to be able to see this or not, but I've just cut a little channel there, a little groove in the bottom with a die grinder. So hopefully that'll give enough clearance for that ferrule to slide through and back in now. So let's try to hook it back up again for about the third or fourth time. So this is what the stock ferrule looks like on the cable for the trunk pull. And I know some guys are probably in the comments going to ask me, well, why don't you just cut that off and go with a bare cable and then just secure that under the nut? Well, I don't think that's a good solution. I think that has a potential of pulling out from under the nut, and I think this is much better if we can get this to work and fasten up as it should, as the stock one fastened up. This one should fasten up in my mind. So let's continue to work on this to make this work. Alright, the new lever is finally installed after a little bit more work finessing to get it to go in there. And it's operating as it should. It locks, obviously, with the new keys. That looks good. We'll unlock it. Trunk is currently shut. So let's pull on the old lever here. Alright, trunk is operating as it should. This needs a little bit of effort to push back home, not much, just slight fingertip pressure. It still is dragging a little tiny bit. I'm sure that'll probably work its way out over the years, so it's just a real tiny push to return it home, and it's good to go. So I think Doc will be okay with that. Anyway, again, a little bit of work to get it fitted, but we've got it operating as it should and looking good. Alright guys, next step is to go backwards a little bit and to do some rivets on the underside of the handbrake cover. So we'll probably do 3 or 4 snaps on the carpet for that and get that secured. I don't know if I showed you, but the B-posts are done on both sides, so they're looking good. So once we get this snapped in, we'll remove it and give this a good cleaning. It's obviously got some marks on it, but we'll clean that up after we get the rivets installed. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that now. You can see I've got a little bit of a washer here as my backer arrangement for the rivet. So hopefully that will work as far as keeping it attached to the carpet. That's how it was done previously on the old carpet. So let's attempt to do it here with this new carpeting. All right, the handbrake boot is installed. So we're going to try to figure out the next section, which is going to be that transmission tunnel carpeting and the carpeting along the A-posts, the bulkhead pieces on the A-posts where the speakers go. We'll have to figure those out as well. Let's concentrate on figuring out the transmission tunnel carpet first. Alright, based on this little foot panel here, which I believe is the side protector for the gas pedal, I believe this is one of the transmission tunnel pieces for the driver's side, and on the bottom side would be the other piece. So let me see if I can get this fitted somehow that it makes sense where this lays. And we'll go from there. So the jigsaw puzzle continues. I think it's supposed to look something like this, and obviously needs a lot of cutting and trimming. But there's the transmission tunnel piece that somehow needs to be cut around the shifter, and I believe this is going to go up and across and meet the other side. And I've tried to line it up with the carpeting here, although this is going to, I don't know, there's multiple layers here that need to be trimmed to fit the seats. Obviously there's a position here for the seat, so this needs to be trimmed and dropped down for this to fit in the notch here. So that's got to be trimmed out. This has to be trimmed out in this area here. Footwell is just tucked in there, not very neatly, but that's the way this carpet is going to go, and it's pretty much the same on the other side, except it has the pad for the foot. And then I'm left with those A-posts where the speakers go, and I've got 2 panels left. One that looks like this. I have no idea where that's going to go. And I've got a panel like this that kind of looks like it'll work for the B-post, but I haven't tried it yet. So I might have 2 spare pieces, which, as I recalled, like in the forum threads, it sounds like there might be a couple of extra pieces, maybe for a different model of car, I don't know, or a different year of car. We'll see. But I don't believe I need those. But anyway, Making progress still, but it is a jigsaw puzzle, and I really do need to offer some instructions from World Upholstery if they're expecting people to do this themselves. You know, I've done a few carpets in my lifetime, not on an Alfa, and this one is not exactly straightforward to fit. Let's just say that there's quite a bit of trimming involved, and quite a bit of thinking and dry fitting about where stuff is actually supposed to fit. Anyway, we'll continue on. I'll play with fitting that B-post piece, or the A-post piece, with that one piece that I've got that I think goes there, and then we'll continue on from there, maybe doing a little bit of trimming. I know most of that center area is going to be covered by the center console anyway, but I want to make sure it looks good going across the top of the tunnel wherever that's going to be seen. So we'll have to again do a little bit of dry fitting and cutting. The only problem is once you cut it, you're pretty much done. So you got to make sure you're in the right position before you cut it to, you know, clearance the gear shifter, for example. You got to make sure that's correct. Anyway, we'll continue on. Just a little frustrated. All right, Lynn is visiting me this morning to give me a hand with the front part of the carpets after I kind of gave up last night after trying to figure out how this mess goes up around the transmission tunnel. Needs to be a lot of trimming, and this guy is more of an expert than I am when it comes to trimming up carpets. So I've enlisted his help today so we can get this done hopefully by the end of today. We should have this all wrapped up hopefully within a couple of hours actually. So he's brought his own pair of scissors, and they're nice and sharp. You can shave with them, as you can see. And we're just about to start trimming up this front area and getting the center console back in place. Alright, we have the carpets dry fitted on both sides, and before we put the console in place to hold the carpet down, Doc had requested that we run some speaker wire for him so he could possibly put some speakers on the rear shelf. So we're just going to do that now, run them under the carpets for him all the way to the back here and just coil it here under the back somewhere so he can access that when he decides what he's going to do as far as rear speakers are concerned. So that's what we're up to now. Alright, a little note for Doc here on the speaker wires. So we run it down through the center, back, and to each side, and I've just got it, there's a little pocket here in the back of this rear panel, so I've just put one on this, obviously the right hand side on this side, left hand side on that side, so you'll be able to find those. We'll tuck them back up and Velcro this back piece back in. So there your wires run for the speakers. We're just fitting the center console back in place loosely, just trying to find the old bolt locations, or the screw locations. There's one here, there's one back here, there's one up here. Now, I was mentioning to Lynn before, when we put this little piece of carpet in with the actual molded in kick plate, I said to him, I said, I think the console's actually going to cover that. So why they put that there, I have no idea, because obviously, as you can see, it is covered by that console. So another redundant piece for some reason that they've done. It's really not required. So maybe that's for S1 Series 1 Spider, or maybe it's for a Series 3 Spider. I don't know. But obviously it's not required for this car because this acts as the kick panel on the right hand side for the accelerator panel. Alright, making pretty good progress. We have the center console back pretty much in place with all the buttons hooked up and wiring hooked up to the back of it. We have the temperature control sliders basically to put back in. Right now we've sort of switched gears and we're working on putting in the new speakers into the A posts. So that is happening, and you can see we've got the sill plates in back attached to fasten that carpet down. So we had to modify the speaker slightly to fit in the area, just to basically the ears on the speakers to fit with the grills, which are aftermarket grills. So we're not going with back with the factory speakers, which are actually here. One of the speakers was not working or inoperative, so that's why we've decided to go with an upgraded speaker for the front here, or Doc has decided to go with an upgraded speaker. So we're just in the process of fitting those. Alright, speakers are installed and working. I'll crank this up for you, and you can hear this wonderful, we had flash dance on a minute ago.
So you're a rocket scientist. That don't impress me much.
That's all I can play because of copyright, but that's not bad. Alright, if you're new to the channel or you missed me removing the old carpet from the car, here it is. And you can see how badly faded it was, where the sun was hitting it. Of course, where the seats were, it didn't see any sun, so that's pretty close to the original color. But the rest of it, wherever the sun hit it, faded and didn't look so good. So there is the old carpet, original carpet of the car, and again molded carpet. And let's have a look at the finished product here. And it looks pretty good. Bit of a chore to get to this point, but still obviously need to put the seats in, but I think that's looking pretty darn good. We did end up fitting it under the center console, so that carpet will not move. It's very similar to way obviously the one-piece molded carpet went directly under the tunnel as well, and that's looking good there. We'll straighten the seam out a little bit when we put the seam in, or when we put the seats in. We got to make a little bit of cut here for the bolts for the seats to go in. We've already made some clearance on this side, so that's looking pretty good. You've seen the rear shelf previously and the rear carpeting. Let's wander around to the driver's side. Again, I believe Doc is going to get some overmats for this, which is a good idea. I like to run overmats in my car. Again, need to make some clearance holes on this side for the seat rails as well. Other than that, it's looking pretty good. Obviously the dash is back in place, or the center console is back in place and looking good, cleaned up nicely. We've got our new climate control bezel, I guess you can call it, installed. The other one was broken when it came off the car and was made of plastic. This one's metal. So yeah, looking good. Alright, I think I'll put an end to the carpet series here and just make mention of a couple of things. World Upholstery kit, it's not the easiest to install. As mentioned, there was no directions that came with the kit, nor could I find anything online. And from what I read in the forums, World Upholstery is not very helpful if you call their helpline. So we muddled through it. We managed to figure out which carpets go where, as you can see. We do still have those two mystery carpets. I'm not sure if they're for a different model year. As mentioned previously, I did do some reading in the forums, and it sounds like other people have had the same experience and have had these two pieces of carpet left over. As far as the installation of the kit, there was absolutely no glue required. And the reason for that is because most of the pieces are actually fastened in by screws in certain locations, or by speakers, or held down by the center console, or held down by cargo hooks. So no glue used, and where you think they might need to use glue, they've actually sewn in some Velcro strips. You can actually see some here where the carpets overlay each other, so the Velcro will hold that down. So that seems to work pretty well. I'm pretty happy with the fit otherwise. I mean, there was a bit of massaging here and there and a bit of trimming here and there, but everything, once you figured it out, seemed to go pretty well. I was quite happy with the rear panel fit. The rear carpet fit, it was just a bit more challenging once we get ahead of the seats to figure out this area here without any directions. But again, we managed to do it. Thanks with the help of a Lynn. We managed to put it together, and I think it looks good. And yeah, looking forward to getting the seats back in. Alright guys, seats are now in, so I thought I'd give you a quick sneak peek of those. We'll do some better shots of those once the top is down and we have the new top cover installed. I still need to run the seat belts through the guides on the seats. We'll do that at a later date. I just wanted to give you a quick look at the seats in there. They fit perfectly. The carpet fits perfectly around the seat rails. It looks neatly trimmed, so that looks great. Again, some nice overmats will be great in that area as well, just to give a little bit more contrast. If we can find some, hopefully, that are going to match. We'll do a little bit of searching on the internet for those. Driver's side looks fantastic. Very, very happy with that. I think Doc's going to be happy with the transformation of this interior. Again, carpet fitting nicely around the seat rails down there, and the seams are looking great. So yeah, transformation to say the least. New top, new seats, new carpet, amongst other things. Alright, that's it for now guys. We'll wrap it up, and we'll get back out here another day and continue on with a bunch of other small projects that we need to do. Still a little bit of a list to check off before we get this thing out on the road and in for a safety and certification check. And then on to Doc.